Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wicked Anthology. I'm Psychos.
I'm Mythos.
And
Why did I
Mythos.
say that with an accent?
I'm Mythos.
I'm
Pleasure.
Mythos.
Pleasure to meet you. Fucking hell. And just like that, we've lost all of our
everyone.
UK.
Hello, one person in England that keeps listening for some reason.
I don't understand why.
Okay, so I bought at Safeway. They had these Star Wars Oreos, and it's dark side or light side, open to discover your destiny.
And I grabbed...
You grabbed a box for me.
Yeah.
And it says red or blue cream with Kyber-inspired sugar crystals.
Ooh, so do you think it has like rock candy in it?
Oh, shit, I didn't even think about that. I guess there's only one way to find out. They also have different faces on them. So it's like we're back at episode 1 again.
Oh, I love that.
So we have General Grievous. We've got... I don't know who that is. We've got Kylo Ren.
Wait, let me see.
I can picture him. I can't remember his name. Right? You know, like, I can picture him, but I don't know his name.
That's not Sudoku. Sudoku.
Count Dooku.
Dooku.
Yes.
We've Count Sudoku.
Sudoku. We've got what looks like a stormtrooper, and we've got a random droid who I don't know. Jabba the Hutt. This gets weirder every Oreo I pull out. Oh, there's Grievous again. Oh my god, there's so many different Darth Maul. Where's Vader? How many different Oreo characters can you have? Where's Vader?
Oh no.
Oh, there he is. I found Vader.
You know there's like some nerd out there who's like, you opened it?
Yeah. I
And
don't
it's like,
buy
I'm gonna
Oreos to
eat
look
them.
at 'em. Scan to fulfill your full destiny. Oh, and they credit the artist too.
That's cool.
Oh, there's 20 character cookies.
Jesus.
Anyway.
How have you been since our last recording?
So I've been okay. I'm in a weird situation right now. So, as I've expressed a lot, I have really bad anxiety. And something that has happened that probably isn't as bad as I'm making it out to be in my head. So my new job, my schedule posts 3 weeks out, and it typically goes up like Wednesday, Thursday time, and it's Tuesday today. And I have like the worst anxiety that I'm just going to be like fired randomly, right? So my schedule for the week of the first week of July hasn't gone out yet, but it says that like it's been posted. I just haven't been scheduled. And I text the assistant manager at my store and I was like, what is this? And he was like, I don't know. I'll check it. I'm like, okay, thank you. It would be weird for them to just not schedule me and like that's how they fire me. Like that would be a really weird thing to do. But I have crippling anxiety. So that's how I've been. But I also just turned in my final project. Yay me. It took me a while to do it, so that's where I've been. Other than that, I've been doing good. I've gotten stronger, to Psychos's dismay.
It's not dismay, it's more like displeasure.
It's because I'm a menace and I like to like harass Psychos by like tickling them and being an asshole. And now that I've become very strong very fast, like actually today I got the chance to lift the same thing that I lifted my first day, and my first day I could barely lift it. It was so heavy, and today I could lift it no problem, so I can visibly see me getting stronger. But now Psychos cannot fend me off from
Tickle attacks, which is
tickle attacks.
the worst thing that could possibly happen to me.
How are you, Psychos?
I'm stressed.
Do you want to talk about it?
No, I'm just yeah, sorry.
Do you want to talk
Words.
about it?
No.
Yeah.
No, I goodness. I went to the doctor yesterday. I got prescribed some new medication that should hopefully help with my headaches.
Yeah. Finally.
I
You started taking vitamins too.
Yeah, I started taking vitamins, so hopefully that'll help with my overall ability to like feel great on days where I need to feel great. And
because I also think that we both of us probably have an iron deficiency, and I'm got us something that has iron and magnesium in it.
I also got my blood stolen, so we'll see how that turns out. And
You got blood work done?
I got my blood stolen. They stole my blood. I hate blood work. I hate going to the doctors. I hate all of it.
I know, baby. I know. Life's so hard.
Can't do it. But yeah, no, I was so drained yesterday that I ended up coming home and like
immediately falling asleep. But before you did that, guess what you watched for the first time?
I watched Practical Magic for the first time. I grew up in a very weird subsection of people where like I watched stuff like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, movies like Scream, and you would think Practical Magic, given its more supernaturally inclined feel, would fit right in with that. No, I just never did.
It's not something younger people, I think, would have liked. It definitely feels like a middle to older millennial kind of movie. We are neither of those things.
I mean, that's fair, but like I also grew up with stuff like the X-Files and stuff that like my dad.
You would watch X-Files.
Oh my god. Like I grew up with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it wasn't super geared towards people my age. So that's why I was kind of like surprised that neither my mom or my dad sat me down to watch this movie because they had no problem with showing me movies like Dawn of the Dead when I was 7 years old.
Oh yeah, I forgot you have that trauma.
God, no. You know how bad it was?
Hmm.
For years afterwards when I was left home alone, and occasionally to this day, if I'm left home alone, I'll occasionally hear like the growls and snarls just because of how young I was and how traumatizing that movie was to me.
That's why I don't like leaving you home alone.
And I'm like,
oh shit.
But before like all of that, yesterday morning I had a interview and it seemed to go okay.
It went great. You're just in your head about it.
I know.
Literally, I shit you not, the person interviewing Psychos said that they should listen to me more. So, just for, consistency's sake.
But it did sound like there were going to be multiple rounds of interviews, which is I feel like lends itself to being more stable than
I feel like given the job that you applied for, I think multiple rounds of interviews probably makes the most sense. They might have a working interview of some kind, but also the effort of going through that many interviews to hire someone is probably really fucking exhausting. But the fact that they literally mentioned that you were doing something that other people in interviews weren't doing to your face.
Yeah, I was taken surprised by that. I was like, "Oh my god, that's something you just like outright said with your whole chest."
Because they probably felt so comfortable with you, which means they're probably going to hire you. They just have to technically interview everyone else too.
I should be getting a call within the next couple of days about it.
You'll get a call by Thursday.
Yeah. And then I also have to put in my 2 weeks notice tomorrow, which is something.
Oof. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. But everything will be okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
maybe just putting that 2 weeks notice into the world will also
manifest it.
Yeah, invite another job in.
Maybe.
You never know. Anyway, so yeah, we're just doing a lot of fun different things.
Transitioning and stuff.
God, we're like hyper focusing on my health right now, and it's not a fun thing because like one of the things that my doctor really wanted me to do was like start keeping like a symptom diary.
So we went and got you a cute little planner.
And I like going through the day, I didn't realize just how many different little things that my body does is actually not normal compared to like other people. And I'm like, it's because you've gotten accustomed to your disability.
Yeah. And if you don't speak out about what you're feeling because everyone around you has treated it as normal, then you don't realize that just because the people who gaslit you into thinking that you were okay when you're younger did that doesn't mean that everyone else thinks like that. But then you never speak out, and so no one ever knows.
Yeah, my doctor is very concerned about me,
So am I.
I think everything will be okay.
I have like medical anxiety. Like I'm consistently, perpetually convinced that I'm dying of brain cancer.
Honestly, me too. But the only reason why I haven't said anything about it to my doctor is because I have doctor anxiety.
Well, I saw a TikTok that was like, time to play that game of like, am I exhausted? Have I not had enough water? Have I had too much Monster? Or am I dying of brain cancer? And I was like, wow, that's really targeted.
No, like
that's literally me.
No. You know those memes where like somebody's like, okay, time to see what's going on with me. And they type in all their symptoms, and it's like, wow, WebMD says I'm dead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's me
It's literally you.
constantly.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
So it is very late for us. It is almost midnight.
And
But this episode, if you haven't noticed by the title, is a little
different.
weird.
Something's
What's
different.
going on? I guess you should be asking me that.
Yeah, what's going on?
Finals has been kicking my ass. My whole everything with school, I had to like stop everything to focus on that. So I actually don't have a story this week. I am in the midst of researching my story for next week. It is a very big topic, and when I say big, I mean like heavy topic. It impacts a lot of people, and it's not a fun topic to talk about, and it's something that I actually hadn't heard of until about last year. Which, thanks public education system.
Love that for us, which sucks because my topic next week is actually going to be pretty dark too, because I had to switch some cases around, and I think the case that I'm doing next week actually connects in a very scary way to yours.
Yeah, so
and
I
it's not going to be
actually
fun.
we have a schedule. Little known fact, me and Psychos have a very detailed schedule of what we're doing. I've opened the schedule. I have not looked at what your topic is.
Oh yeah, it's not accurate right now anyway because I haven't like shuffled it manually in there yet.
So I actually have no idea what we're talking about today, but today I don't actually have a story. We're just gonna do your story, and then I have a rant about something that happened the other day that Psychos has no idea about, but I just need to be like angry about it because when it happened in the moment, I literally just had to bite my tongue and sit there for like 15 minutes. And I was just like, I have so many opinions and I don't want to say anything right now because of the situation that I'm currently in. I just want to eat my food. And I couldn't. And so, actually I could. I literally was avoiding discussing this thing by shoving food in my mouth so that I physically looked like I just couldn't respond. I just had to literally go, and like nod because I was just like, I can't.
Did this happen at work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just like, what the fuck am I hearing?
Okay, cool. Cool. Love that.
So we're gonna discuss it. Oh my god. It was a weird one, but we're gonna wait till the very end of the episode to do that. So you have to sit here and wonder, unless you can't wait, and we're just gonna rant. I also need milk for my Oreo.
Jesus Christ, go get your milk before.
Go get my milkies.
Okay.
Yuck. And I have milkies. Also, someone upstairs is watching Bridgerton.
Oh, we should probably
Season 2, and it is bonkers. Oh wait, we gotta see if my Oreos have Kyber crystals in them. I definitely do see some like specks in here, but that could also just be like the Oreo. I have Count Dooku right now. Let's see what Count Dooku tastes like. It's never a sentence I wanted to say out loud, but it's definitely a sentence someone has said before.
So like Pop Rocks or
No.
was I right? Was it like the rock candy or
No. What the fuck? The inside's white. Darth Maul's insides are white. It's like there's definitely chunks of something in it, but it's not Pop Rocks.
That's weird.
Or Pop Rocks that jinx it. I think it's literally just sugar crystals.
Interesting.
Mid.
Oh well.
Also, technically speaking, the cyber-inspired crystals is a stupid thing to put in because the colors of the Oreos are also dictated by the color of the cyber crystals in the lightsabers. So they double cyber crystal the Oreos. But whatever.
Okay. Alrighty, and that's like the only thing we can joke about.
I literally don't know what you're talking about, so I'm nervous.
I have some trigger warnings before we can really dive into it. Trigger warnings are rape, sexual assault, abuse of a minor,
Is this the India case?
No.
Oh, I don't know what's going on.
Cannibalism.
What? Whoa, back up.
And I think that's it. Obviously murder and dismemberment, but you know.
Okay.
But I do have a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
What would you do to save your child?
Save my child?
Yes.
Murder.
Fair enough.
Do I have options?
Anything that you think could help your child is fair game.
I think just short of annihilating a Earth-like planet or a planet inhabited by more than one species of a creature that has some semblance of consciousness. I think just shy of that, I'd pretty much do everything. I think that's the only thing where I'd hesitate.
Okay.
I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I'm just saying I should think about it.
Okay. Alrighty. So today I'm talking about Leonarda Cianciulli.
Da Vinci?
No.
Da Vinci?
No.
Leonarda Cianciulli?
Cianciulli. We are in Italy today.
Ah!
Italia. Now,
Luca.
she was known as the Soap Maker of Correggio. Oh no.
I remember now. I remember now because this spawned me telling you something and you got really concerned that I had an opinion.
What was it?
You'd mentioned something about soap making out of people, and I told you exactly how it's done.
Oh yeah, that was alarming. That was very alarming.
Look, it's not I haven't looked up how to make soap out of people. I just know how to make soap out of meat fat, and humans are made of meat. So,
Okay, that's fair.
long pigs.
Long pork. Alrighty.
Oink. Me hoy me noy.
I gotta start, baby. So, Leonarda Cianciulli was born on April 18th, 1894. Yeah, 1894. In Montella Avellino, in what was then known as the Kingdom of Italy.
Ooh, drama.
She was born to Emilia Dinolfi and Mariano Cianciulli, but her parents' marriage was not a happy one or even wanted on her mother's side.
Yeah.
Like, her dad wanted it, her mom did not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, growing up, Emilia Dinolfi was part of the upper class, raised to be a proper upper-class woman. She was expected to marry within her social class and remain well within the expectations the high-class society had set for her.
Duh.
Records are kind of unclear, but when she made her debut, she was about between 16 and 19.
What year was this?
This is before 1894. We aren't quite sure on the year. Like, records of her parents and records a lot during this time were kind of lost. So we are before 1894. Just because unfortunately having two world wars knock you
fucks up for your records.
It really does.
And what was her name?
Leonarda's mother's name was Emilia Dinolfi. Also, sorry if I stutter a lot. I've been having a lot of trouble like reading, so my notes are probably gonna. Okay. You're just gonna have to deal with it. I'll try to edit it out as much as I can, but
It's
if
fine,
not,
baby, it's fine.
yeah. But like I said, when Emilia did make her debut, she was extremely sought after. She was cream of the crop. I mean, to draw back to Bridgerton, she was the diamond of the season, essentially. So, one of the men who really wanted her for a wife was Mariano Cianciulli, a man who was in his 40s.
Gagged.
And he was well below Emilia's social class.
Ew.
While his motives for doing so remain unclear, although honestly it was probably to
be a creep
and trap Emilia. One day while Emilia was walking along the town, Mariano actually dragged her into an alley and raped her.
That bitch.
Emilia herself didn't understand what happened to her until
she was
much
16,
later.
Right?
She was between the ages of 16 and 19.
Oh, jeez.
And she had no idea what was going on.
Jesus.
She only knew that she was in pain.
Yeah.
After her assault, she went home and just slept.
Oh, baby.
Over the next few months, she would see Mariano around town and basically have little panic attacks, essentially, but she still didn't understand. And he would be bragging to his friends about what happened. But unfortunately, word wouldn't reach the upper echelons until it was discovered that Amelia was pregnant. I watched a 2-part video that Stephanie Harlow did, and she brought up that the way that they kind of found out was probably because women back then had like servants and such, and who like cleaned the bed sheets. So the servants probably noticed, like, oh, there's
She's
no
not.
blood on the bed sheets right now. There hasn't been for a couple months, so she's probably pregnant.
Oh my god. What a way to find out.
Yeah, and she didn't even know. She didn't know that was a thing that could happen. She didn't understand what had happened to her until she was being essentially forced to marry this dude. Because she was, like I mentioned before, she was essentially the diamond of the social season.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of protecting their daughter, Amelia's parents forced her to marry the man who raped her. Not only that, Mariano was not brought up to their level like Mariano wanted to be. Instead, Amelia was cast out of her family home and forced to live as a peasant with her rapist husband. During the pregnancy, she learned that Mariano was actually pretty physically abusive as well as sexually. His rage knowing no bounds when she failed to cook and clean as he expected her to, despite her growing up with maids and cooks to do the work for her. It was a very harsh learning curve.
I imagine so.
And on top of all of this stress, Amelia's pregnant and Mariano isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
He never gets brought up constantly in the research that I did, especially in Leonardo's like autobiography, which is a crazy book. I didn't get to read the whole thing. I got to read segments of it where I could find it. It's wild, but he never worked. Like, he rarely, if ever, worked a day in his life.
Jeez.
He just refused to. And unfortunately, he doesn't come from the background that can afford that kind of thing.
I know people like that.
Don't we all?
Mm-hmm.
So he's drinking constantly and he's hanging out with his friends. Amelia isn't getting any assistance from her family or her friends whatsoever. In fact, the general feeling around town was that Amelia had made her bed when she became pregnant, and this was the natural consequence for her actions.
Dude, she was assaulted.
But this is also like around 1894.
Oh, so it's her fault.
Yeah. I'm not victim blaming.
No,
But
that was the belief at the time, was that
yeah.
it's her fault.
Yeah, the belief of the time is that, unfortunately, onus for everything is on the woman regardless, and that's why this is such bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So, once Leonarda had been born, things only became harder for the family. Amelia knew nothing about raising a child, and as previously mentioned, Mariana was hardly ever home. Even though Leonarda was just a baby, Amelia quickly blamed her for the way her life had turned out. Had Leonarda not existed, perhaps nobody would ever know about the rape, and then she wouldn't have had to marry Mariano, and she wouldn't have to live this life that she was very ill-equipped to be living at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So because of this resentment and hatred for her daughter, Amelia began to physically and verbally abuse Leonarda, beating her for the smallest offenses and constantly reminding her how much everything was Leonarda's fault.
Jesus.
The family's circumstances eventually got so bad because of Mariano's drinking and rather annoying habit of borrowing money without paying it back because he wasn't working, they actually had to rely on charity from the local church.
Jeez.
So when Leonarda was about 2 years old, Mariano actually never came home.
Okay.
Eventually, several days later, Mariano was discovered at a friend's home unconscious.
Love that.
Amelia brought him home, where she discovered that Mariano had a very high fever, but instead of calling for a doctor, which they more than likely couldn't afford, Amelia just left him in a room as she continued about the day.
Okay.
Leonarda would later recall in her memoir that she remembered very little of her father, but she did remember that at the funeral, Amelia had spat on Mariano's grave when he died.
Good for her.
Yeah. Despite hopes otherwise, Amelia was again barred from returning to the high society life that she had grown up in. Instead, she fell into a cycle where she attempted to marry and court higher class men who
Mhm.
literally only used her for their pleasure with no intentions of ever actually marrying her.
Of course.
Because she was already a woman with a child, you don't want to get damaged goods.
I hate
Yeah.
people.
Eventually, she was able to remarry a man who was able to make them some money, but unfortunately, he didn't have the ability to save much. But it didn't matter to Amelia because anything would have been better than Mariano and the destitution he had forced them to live in.
Yeah.
And basically, like, Leonardo's stepfather would con people, take the money, and then spend it on lavish things. He was able to bring in money, but the saving it up was the harder part for him.
Yeah.
Now, Leonardo was actually fully ignored by her new stepfather, while Amelia only gave Leonarda negative and abusive attention. She was also given very little food, often eating scraps, while her mother and stepfather enjoyed full, lavish meals. After years and years of abuse, constant reminders that she was unwanted, as well as the neglect, Leonarda attempted to hang herself at the age of 13.
Oh, baby.
She survived the attempt, but she damaged her throat to the point of being unable to speak for a few weeks. Nobody noticed.
No one noticed that?
Nobody noticed.
Oh my god.
Her depression and anxiety got worse and worse, so less than a year later, at the age of 14, she attempted to hang herself again, failing for the second time.
Oh my god. Imagine how upsetting that has to be as a kid to one be like this is all the option that I have, but two, to be like I can't even end my life properly. Which is such a dark thought to think, but as someone who's been there, like it is
It's,
kind of like
I'm such a
I
failure, I can't
I
even
can't
do
even kill
this right.
myself properly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That's
heartbreaking.
horrible. She's just a baby.
Yeah. Now, as
How
Leah,
old was she?
she was 13 and 14 at the time of
Oh
these
my
attempts.
god. I'm gonna beat the shit out of these parents.
Yeah.
I'm
As
scared of the cannibalism. That's what I'm scared.
as Leonarda grew older, Amelia actually began to treat her more and more like a doll. So she was giving her attention now, but still wasn't the same motherly attention that Leonardo needed. She was dressing her up and making her look nice so that way she would attract an upper class man because Amelia and her new husband desperately wanted to be upper class, and the only way to do that was through Leonardo. But Leonardo, on the other hand, was enjoying attention from all men, regardless of her mother's and stepfather's wishes. According to her memoir, she also enjoyed attention from women as well.
Ugh, a queen.
Like later on, if you were to believe her memoir, she slept with everybody in the town of Correggio, husband and wife.
Good for her.
I think she's a little bit prone to dramatiques, but if she wants to do that, she's well within her rights. Eventually, she fell in love with a more middle to lower class man named Raffaele Pansardi. Her mother, of course, disapproved, but Leonarda stood her ground, causing her mother to cut ties with her own daughter, but not before cursing her. Quote, "You will live a miserable life until the day you die." End quote.
Bitch, I hope the fuck I do.
This curse would actually come to consume Leonarda's life. A very important thing to note about this time in Italy, Christianity and witchcraft and that kind of thing was well intertwined with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had several Romani groups roaming Italy at the time, so you had the magic and things were well intertwined with each other. It was very, very prominent. So of course, her mother did mean that as a curse. So
Yeah, the intention was to curse.
yeah. So in 1917, Leonardo married the registry office clerk Raffaele Pansardi.
Sardine.
During her marriage to Raffaele, especially early on, Leonardo was plagued by constant anxiety and panic attacks.
Oh, baby.
She was incredibly harsh on herself, and every little misstep she made, like forgetting to get something done or overcooking dinner, was met with the absolute conviction that her mother truly had cursed her, and that this was the beginning of the end with her relationship with Raffaele. And then you have Raffaele sitting over here
Just Jay chillin'.
why is this so upsetting to you? Why does this matter so much to you?
Imagine not knowing how to, like, not knowing what trauma is.
No, like, he was so confused about why, like, all these little mistakes that she made seemed to upset her so much. Like, he really did love and try to support her. Like,
That's so sad because I know that you're talking about it, which means it doesn't get any better.
no. Like, he really, really did try. Now, the stress of constantly believing that she was cursed truly wrecked Leonarda's body and health, as well as her mind. She began to suffer from seizures and very, very poor health
Jeez.
as a result of her determination to prove that the curse was not real. During her marriage to Raffaele, they began to make plans for children, which was Leonardo's greatest wish. She wanted to be a mother more than anything. She wanted a huge family, and Raffaele was like, okay, bet, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Before she starts working on making this family, Leonardo actually sought out a Romani fortune teller. For this time, this is very normal and even expected, since, she herself had kind of been cursed. So she meets with this fortune teller and begins to talk about the curse. The fortune teller reads her palms and tells Leonardo that, quote, "You will not die for a very long time, but you will live a lifetime of sadness and outlive all of your children," end quote.
Oh, God. That's the worst thing to get told.
Yeah. So Leonarda at this point is devastated by this news, seeing it as further proof that the curse had truly taken over her life and that there was nothing she could do to present it. She fought so hard to try to live past it, but her anxiety and her seizures only got worse. So when she became pregnant in 1920, after 3 years of marriage, the violent nature of seizures and falls in those conditions are not conducive to any pregnancy, and unfortunately, she did end up losing her first baby.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. This deals heavily with miscarriages and child death as well. It is heartbreaking. Both Raffaele and Leonardo were shattered by this news. Her health and seizures continued to occur to the point where Leonardo could not work due to the seizures and the damage they wreaked on her body. Raffaele, on the other hand, was working, but there were very few opportunities to make money in Montella. They decided to move to Loria, where Raffaella was from, in 1921 after attempting to make it work on the farms surrounding Montella. Now, Loria is a very, very beautiful place. Like, I've seen pictures, it's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
10 out of 10. And Raffaele believed that the climate and his family, because he moved away from home to work, and that's where he met and married Leonarda. So he was like, okay, my family could be the support system that she needs, and the climate could be nice. So he was able to buy a nice home for them. And in 1922, Leonardo gave birth to a baby boy whom she named Giuseppe.
Oh.
With this baby and the distance from her abusive mother, her anxiety faded. Leonardo's seizures came to a stop, and life was genuinely very good for the family during this time.
That's good.
Now, very important thing to note, Giuseppe is Leonardo's oldest son, but also her golden child.
Mm-hmm.
He is her favorite. However, her fear and anxiety would come creeping back in a short time. Like, it wasn't long that everything kind of stayed peaceful for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, her anxiety was bad. She would stay awake as much as possible, watching Giuseppe to see if he was breathing, stressing about keeping him safe. And all the stress would bring the seizures back. And because the seizures were back, she wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And Raffaele was barely able to pay the bills, and everything was just sort of floundering. But Leonardo was determined to make sure the curse and the future foretold by the Romani woman would never come true. She became pregnant a total of 17 times, including her first miscarriage and Giuseppe. This woman has genuinely the worst luck, and I would honestly feel so bad for her because I can't imagine going through this, but she would actually go on to have 2 more miscarriages.
Oh, my God.
The rest of the children she would carry to term, but 10 more would die before they would reach adulthood. And 7 of those 10 would die before they were just 3 years old. A few died from illnesses, some just died in accidents or for reasons that were unknown.
Mm-hmm.
It is my opinion that she actually never killed her children. It was just really, really bad luck.
Yeah.
And as this is happening, it's very clear that Giuseppe, again, is her oldest child. She is very strict with him, so he does not get hurt or die. She refuses to let him go out to play, and she was convinced that the smallest injury would result in his death. Even the smallest cough had her panicking that he was sick and he would be dead within a few days.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Raffaele and his family tried to reassure her that everything was fine with Giuseppe, but it soon became clear that they couldn't keep living on a single income for much longer. So, Leonarda, after many reassurances from Raffaele that he would keep their children safe, they had 4 at the time during this.
Jesus. Chill the
Sh-
fuck out, dude.
she went out and began to work as a custodian at the bank.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't allowed access to the accounts or the vaults, but in an effort to try to get more money for her family, she did end up committing fraud,
No.
for which she was caught in 1927 and was sentenced to a year and a half in a reformatory.
Jeez.
Now, the triggering event for her starting to commit fraud was that she had just had another child, a daughter, and that daughter died in her arms like right after giving birth.
Yeah.
And something in her brain just kind of snapped. She was like, I can give my family this money and maybe this can help us afford a better life so I can stop having to bury my children in paupers' graves, at the very least. That's heartbreaking.
That is.
When she was released, she and her family were essentially ostracized from the community due to her actions. So they decided to move to Lacedonia, where Raffaele took on a clerk job, and it was enough to allow Leonarda to stay home with the children. Her anxiety and seizures definitely calmed down around the move, so she was thrilled by all of this. Around this time, she sought out another fortune teller, hoping for a little bit more insight into her life so she could figure out how to combat the curse, because as she come to realize, the curse seemed to strike her children the most.
Mm-hmm.
However, the fortune teller told her, quote, that on one hand there is prison, on the other an asylum, end quote. This sent Leonardo spiraling, but in a completely different direction. Instead of avoiding like talks about the curse and stuff like that like she had before, she dove headfirst into like the rituals and the culture of the Romani people in an attempt to sort of fight fire with fire.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter her research, she couldn't seem to find a way to break or even combat the curse.
Doesn't exist. It's just her mom being a bitch. It's fine.
But you also have to remember, out of 17 children, only 4 survived childhood.
Yeah, but unfortunately that is a lot of just
Yet,
living in a society that has those institutions put in place to actively fuck you over. And also that early on, that wasn't unfortunately that unheard of to have children die like that. That was pretty common.
that is true. But my next bullet point, I think, might be a little bit.
God damn it. Me trying to be smart. You. Well, actually.
So, like I mentioned before, she was trying to fight this curse, and they're currently living in Lacedonia at the time.
Mm-hmm.
On the morning of July 23rd, 1930, a massive earthquake rocked the area that
Whoa.
she was living in.
Yeah.
It caused 1,404 deaths
Holy shit.
and thousands of injuries. In addition, it completely destroyed her home.
Oh god.
Her children and her husband were safe, but their home was again completely destroyed. In addition, the devastation caused by this earthquake also left Leonarda and her family without food, water, clothes, or any of their belongings.
Oh jeez.
So,
Well,
was
that is a natural disaster.
that is an act of God telling you that
No,
you are
that is
cursed.
a natural disaster that unfortunately struck at a point in time where her, probably like a bunch of other people, were struggling with systemic issues.
I mean, that's fair, but you also have to remember that we need to sort of see it from her perspective.
I know. I'm just
She
saying
got like she believes that she was cursed, so everything that
she was abused and this is all that she's known. So I don't blame her for thinking this. I'm just pointing out, like, you know.
there are a few things that are very interesting. I do think that maybe it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, but I think other things were a little bit weirder and harder to explain.
Mm-hmm.
But you never know. So, as a result, they moved very, very far north to a town called Correggio, where her crimes would occur. Now, it's a very
Oh,
small.
right. You're telling me about crime.
Yeah. It's a very small town, so everybody knows everyone, and even like this town even dates back to the Roman Empire.
Oh, jeez.
So its history is very, very rich. It's a very beautiful town too.
Mhm.
Once Leonarda and her family arrived, they were welcomed with open arms since it was no secret that they were refugees.
Aw.
Raffaele found work as a clerk once again, and they started running a home that was attached to a vacant store.
Okay.
Now, Leonarda's mental health at the beginning of their time in Correggio was not good. She was in shock from losing everything still and was finally experiencing the whirlwind of emotions that comes from a major catastrophe. Despite her depression that often left her catatonic at times, she was still receiving gifts and food from the other townspeople trying to help out when they could.
That's so sweet.
The rest of the family actually began to thrive in Correggio more so than they had in a very, very long time. Now, eventually, Leonarda comes out of her depressive episode and she decides to pray that the curse had ended and that the earthquake was the last of it. She was like, "That's it. The curse,
No more.
the curse went out with a boom. That was it. Here, everybody is doing great. The curse just needed to, and then we're good." You know?
Mhm.
She saw her family being treated well. She saw herself being welcomed despite her lack of communication and collaboration with the community. So she went out and she thanked everybody. And then she began to settle into what she hoped would be the village that her family and herself would thrive in. She actually began to make friends.
Yay.
She became a pillar of the community, offering.
That's a danger phrase. If I learned one thing about true crime, that's a danger phrase.
That's like you hear that phrase and it's like a red flag.
Pillar of the community. Oh no, they're a serial killer.
Yeah. Now, she began offering advice to those who needed it, and she started.
Bitch, you're cursed. You can't offer advice.
She actually became less of a helicopter mom. She was thriving for the first time in her life, and it really showed. She actually began to write and read her own poetry. She did poetry.
She wrote her own poetry and then read it.
Like, they did, like, presentations and stuff.
I see.
You know, Leonarda actually reopened the shop that was connected to her home, and she started to sell, like, soaps and other cleaning supplies. And she often gifted soaps to her friends as sort of like a marketing ploy to try to draw in customers, and it really worked here.
She made soap.
She made. Did I?
Who steals soap?
I was like, oh no, did I slip?
Stole my soap.
I'm like, oh no, did I slip?
Who steals soap?
Her shop actually became very popular very quickly. She began to get orders from all over the country, which is a really amazing feat considering how small everything started.
Mrs. Lovett, no.
She was actually able to support her family without Raffaele needing to work. She was able to begin to save for her and her family's future, something that was impossible to do before.
Yeah.
So she's doing very well. Like, it's going great.
Yay.
Um,
Where does it go bad?
we're getting there. We're getting there.
I'm scared. I want to go home.
No. Leonarda actually also began to give palm readings and tarot readings. And these readings were extremely, extremely accurate.
So are mine.
Yeah, I know. Like, hers are on the same level as yours.
Oof, yikes.
And it gave her more of a grade.
I don't do palm readings, I do tarot readings, and I've never been wrong, and I wish I had sometimes.
I know. Like, this didn't hurt her reputation at all. It just made her more appealing to people.
Mm-hmm.
Her reputation even began to spread to the Romani who traded with her, and this is where she begins to build her library of books about magic and spells, tarot decks, runes, and stuff like this. She actively collected all of it. Soon, she had pretty much stopped writing poetry and instead focused that time on trying to find a way to fight the curse that had plagued her for her entire life.
Bro, it's over!
That she thinks. Leonarda would be damned if she let all of her hard work go to waste because of her mother and that nasty curse. Because remember, to her, it always strikes when everything's going great.
Mm-hmm.
Back before the earthquake struck, her and her family were doing great. Now they're here, and now they're...
Oh, so she's trying to do almost like preventative measures.
Yes. Now, as Leonarda's story spread, she became very popular in the occult circles of Italy at this time, and she began to use these connections to gain more information about how to end the curse or at least mute its effects on her and her family. She often used that information to practice these protection spells for her family. And as Leonarda began to learn more, she was able to offer more in her small town, like occult-wise, which only led to her getting more popular, and like the circle just kept getting bigger and bigger. She was very, very popular.
It was like a feedback loop.
Yeah. However, her quest for more knowledge led her to the belief that she truly was cursed. Now, Leonardo wasn't always sure, but when bad things happened, it sort of reinforced the belief that she was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because, like, whenever things were going great before they moved to Correggio, she was like, maybe I wasn't actually cursed, and then something bad happened, and she'd be like, oh no, I'm totally cursed.
Mm.
But then things would be,
She'd like psych herself out.
yeah, and then she'd go, but when things were good again, she'd go back to being like, things are okay. And then something bad is like, oh shit, I'm totally cursed. It was sort of that feedback loop. But here in Correggio, the more she read, the more she learned, it again kind of created this self-fulfilling prophecy in her life. She read more that reinforced her belief that she was cursed, and because it reinforced her belief that she was cursed, she had to read more to learn how to protect herself and her family, and the more that she learned, like, was reading to protect herself and the family, the more
Yeah.
it was just cementing that belief. On the other hand, Giuseppe, her son, had grown into a young man who was very, very tired of his mom's bullshit.
Bullshit.
Like, this man is like, I'm over
He
it.
was like, Mom, please stop. And his mom's like, the voices.
Yeah, pretty much. She was extremely overbearing and overprotective to the point of stifling, and Giuseppe was more than a little over it. Giuseppe knew that
Poor kid.
he knew that his childhood was not normal by any standards, and that was a hard
My
pill.
mom's the local witch.
And that was a really hard pill to swallow for him because he wanted a normal life. He wanted a normal childhood, but because of his mother's obsession with this curse,
Oh
whole thing was
yeah, that
taken from
probably
him.
had to like he couldn't do shit because she's always scared that he'll die from the curse.
Yeah. So, like most children who grew up with abusive or overprotective parents, Giuseppe wanted out. He wanted to escape, but he didn't want to hurt his mom.
Oh, baby.
But when World War II broke out in 1939,
I was gonna say we're getting real close to that time.
Giuseppe found his opportunity and enlisted behind Leonardo's back.
Oh, he is totally gonna die in this war.
Now, Leonardo didn't find out from Giuseppe that he had enlisted. She found out from the townsfolk who went up to her and congratulated her on her son's bravery.
Whoa, what a shocker to the system that must have been.
Because back then, I think enlistments were kind of public.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if they are still today, but back then they
I
were really,
I couldn't tell you.
yeah, no, they were very, very public. And it was like sort of a bragging right almost because it was like nationalism. Like, yeah, I'm a fight for my
Yay.
country.
Nationalism, we love it. We
Now,
don't, but
Leonarda
best.
she had memories from the First World War. She knew how badly Italy had done, and she was inconsolable by the time she reached home. Italy had actually had massive losses despite joining the war at the very last minute. Italy was actually one of the countries that had like the worst.
And knowing
Death
how
rate.
things work out in World War II, this can't go well.
Now, she was convinced and terrified that her son had just signed up for a certain death.
So am I.
And she was terrified that the curse was now acting through him.
So am I.
Now,
I agree, ma'am.
Leonarda believed that because the curse was magic in nature, she had to use magic to combat it. She believed that she could protect her son from injury or death before he left, since she had failed to convince him to withdraw his enlistment. She believed that she had to do whatever it took to protect him.
Mm-hmm.
As Leonardo researched, she believed she found a solution that, if it had been available to her all those years ago, could have saved those 13 children that she had lost.
Mm-hmm.
13 of her children had died before all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't matter now, because she had it now, and that was all that mattered. The solution? She would have to sacrifice somebody else's life to save the life of her child. Now, that realization wasn't met with joy or excitement. She was resigned to it. She saw it as something she had to do. And she was actually a very squeamish woman, preferring to pay extra for pre-butchered meat instead of doing it herself because that was the norm at the time.
What a shift, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, Leonarda began to plan, wanting to make sure that she wouldn't get caught, but in addition, wanted to ensure that even though she had to kill somebody, she wanted it to be painless for her victim. Now, she didn't quite care what happened to her after the spell had been completed, but she just wanted to ensure that the spell was completed so Giuseppe would be safe.
Mm-hmm.
The first sacrifice Leonardo chose was a woman named Faustina Seti. Her age is unknown, but sources have given us a range from her 50s to her 70s.
Specific.
Yeah. She was a loyal friend and customer for over a year, seeking Leonardo's help in finding a husband. She had never been married, but she had never given up on the dream of getting married despite being a spinster. Their words, not mine. Now, due to this, she had no friends, and there was nobody to ask after her if something would happen to her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Leonardo didn't quite care that she was a spinster when they first became friends, but whenever she had to start sacrificing people to save Giuseppe, Faustina was the perfect victim. At first. So, when Faustina visited next, Leonardo told her the good news that she had found a husband for Faustina, even though prior to this good news, Leonardo had speculated that God actually wanted Faustina to remain pure and just live her life.
Mm-hmm.
But Faustina was overjoyed by the news of getting a husband.
Yeah.
So she demands to know more, like anybody would. Leonardo tells her that unfortunately, this man who wants so desperately to marry her isn't local. He's actually living in Pola, which is a former colony of Italy that's now that's now part of Croatia.
Mm-hmm.
Faustina didn't actually care. She was just so ready to be a wife and to have that lifelong companionship that she desperately wanted.
Oh, it's really sad.
So she agreed right away. Now, Leonardo talked with her some more, cautioning her that not many people would agree with what she was doing, so they should probably come up with a plan so nobody would really know what Faustina was doing until after the fact. So Leonardo basically said, hey, I want you to write some letters that tell everybody how happy you are, that you're safe, and how much you're enjoying your married life even though you're not married yet. And while Faustina was confused, she was like, okay, I can do this. And then Leonardo was like, you can leave the letters here with me so I can mail them out to friends for you guys. For you. I got this. So Leonardo also then told her to pack her bags and meet her first thing in the morning so they could say goodbye to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Faustina did as told, and as far as everybody else knew at the time, disappeared from Correggio, but not before paying Leonardo 30,000 lire. Lire? Lira? Lyre? Lyra? Maybe. I don't know. Which is about 332 US dollars today.
Oof.
Not a whole lot, but a good
amount.
Now, here's what actually happened instead of her running off to marry her dream man. Based on Leonardo's later confession and testimony. Now, when Faustina stopped by to say goodbye and drop off the letters as promised, Leonardo gave her some drugged wine as a celebratory drink.
Mm-hmm.
When Faustina fell unconscious, Leonardo pulled out an axe and intended to kill her in one blow. That didn't work out as planned by Leonardo, but Faustina did end up dying as a result of multiple blows from the axe. Leonardo then cut her up into 9 pieces, collecting her blood as she did so. Now, this is from her testimony. Quote, I threw the pieces into a pot and added 7 kilos of caustic acid, which I had bought to make soap, and stirred the mixture until the pieces dissolved in a thick, dark mush that I poured into several buckets and emptied in a nearby septic tank. As for the blood in the basin, I waited until it had coagulated and dried it in the oven, ground it, and mixed it with flour, sugar, chocolate, milk, and eggs, as well as a bit of margarine, kneading all the ingredients together. I made lots of crunchy tea cakes and served them to the ladies who came to visit, though Giuseppe and I also ate them.
Ew. Ew. Bitch.
Now, the soap was completely unusable given the mush, so despite the promised internal protection that the tea cakes would offer, the outside protection wasn't going to happen, and Leonardo fully believed that she had done something wrong and that she would have to try again. But as time passed, she realized that the only thing that she did wrong was choose the wrong sacrifice.
What a change. What a shift. What a choice. What a bitch.
So, Leonardo's next victim was another woman she knew well. In August of 1940, she chose Francesca Sovi. I think that's how you pronounce that. Sorry. Francesca was a 55-year-old widow and in desperate need of work. She often talked to Leonarda about it, but had no prospects yet. However, in September of 1940, she told Francesca that she had found a job for her in Piacenza as the headmistress. Excuse me, no, I think that's Piacenza?
Piacenza?
Piacenza.
Sounds wrong, but go off.
It's Piacenza.
Sure.
Piacenza? Piacenza. That's what we're going with. Anyway, so Francesca has now a job in Piacenza. God, I'm struggling so bad with this. I'm so sorry.
You got this.
So Leonardo found a job for Francesca as the headmistress of an elite girls' school. But Francesca would have to move quickly if she wanted the position. Francesca would be required to maintain a certain level of secrecy as her future students would be rather rich and high up in society. And just as she instructed Faustina to do, Leonardo asked Francesca to write letters and meet her at the shop before Francesca left to drop off those letters and celebrate her newfound job. So on September 5th, 1940, Francesca showed up right on time with her bags and her letters ready to head off to the school so she could begin her new life. While there, filled with anxiety about the future, Francesca agreed to a celebratory glass of wine, where she drank all of it.
Ooh!
Now, as she was drugged and was like laying, not necessarily laid down, but like out of it, Leonarda searched her pockets and found about 3,000 lira.
I think it's lira.
Probably lira.
It's probably lira.
Or about $30 US.
Oh, that's not a lot at all, actually.
It's not. Leonarda then set basins around Francesca, which was very, very, like, she was so out of it. She didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And then she murdered her using the axe. She collected all the blood in the basins and set to work again, making the tea cakes and attempting another batch of soap. While dismembering her body, Leonarda noticed a layer of fat that wasn't there with Faustina, and excited by this discovery, she had a moment of what was, in my opinion, personal opinion, this delusion where she believed that she could taste magic within the tea cakes, and that this was the sacrifice that would save her son. Unfortunately, while it seemed initially promising, the soap once again failed, leading Leonarda to look for her third and final victim.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, due to her rage, Leonarda actually burnt herself on the pot that she was using to make the soap, and so she had to get Giuseppe's help with getting rid of the sludge that was in the pot. He did so, but he was fully convinced that she was just trying to manipulate him. Be like, oh my gosh, she's hurting herself, so I have to stay and help her, essentially. And then once he had finished getting rid of the sludge, he dropped off the letters that Francesca had written, once again making him an unknowing part of the cover-up that Leonardo had carefully planned. Now, Leonardo would eventually come up with the real reason why the spell hadn't been working. She wasn't allowing herself to truly feel during these moments. She just treated it as an exercise that had to be done regardless of what she wanted, almost dissociating as she went about her work. Now, that would not do for this thing. She had to truly understand the sacrifice she was making so she would be able to best protect her son. She had to grieve whoever her third victim might be. Now, Leonardo's third victim was a woman named Virginia. Oh, gosh. I'm like staring at this woman's last name, like, how do I pronounce you? I feel so bad for this. Forgive me. Cachopo? Cachopo? Or Cacasiopo? I don't know.
I don't know, man.
A well-known opera singer in Correggio, and somebody who Leonardo was actually extremely close to. This sacrifice would be the sacrifice that would truly protect Giuseppe, according to Leonardo anyway. Now, Virginia was currently living with her brother and his wife as she put her career as an opera singer above anything else. So when she had retired, she moved into a male relative so he could provide for her. She never got married. So at the age of 53, Leonarda and Virginia were very, very close. Close enough that Virginia revealed that she wished to work again, and Leonardo promised to help Virginia find this work. Leonardo was heartbroken by this request because they really were best friends. It hurt But by taking this request, she was able to ensure that she was going to have the opportunity to conduct the sacrifice.
Oh.
Now, Leonarda would inform Virginia that she had located a job opportunity, but she didn't have many details due to how secretive the employer was.
Mm-hmm.
But she had enough information to believe that this was exactly the opportunity that Virginia was looking for.
Yeah.
So, over the course of September 1940, Leonarda would feed Virginia little tidbits about the job, like it was located in Florence, like Virginia would be a secretary, and that her employer was a man with a very rich history in theater.
Okay.
However, because this man wished to remain anonymous, Virginia would have to write letters so her brother and sister-in-law wouldn't worry about her, and so that she wouldn't accidentally reveal her new employer's identity once she got to Florence.
Yeah.
On September 30th, 1940, Virginia packed up everything, grabbed the letters, and said goodbye to her brother before meeting with Leonarda at her shop as previously agreed. However, unlike the previous two, Virginia thought that it was bad form to drink before meeting her employer for the first time. But she eventually caved after Leonarda kept pressuring her to drink the drugged wine.
Mm-hmm.
Once drugged, Leonarda removed Virginia's jewelry and money from her body before killing her with an axe, draining her blood and dismembering her.
Ugh.
She allegedly allowed herself to grieve while she did so, and she truly was devastated by this specific murder. But not devastated enough
to not do it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
She sold all of Virginia's things and took her savings, which was a total of 50,000 lira, about 500 USD today.
Okay.
Now, according to Leonarda, quote, she ended up in the pot like the other two, and her flesh was fat and white, and when it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil, I was able to make some most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were better. That woman was really sweet. Leonarda believed that this was the best soap she had ever made, and the customers actually told her as much.
Ugh. Okay.
Now, everything was ready for the ritual that would protect Giuseppe both inside and out.
Ew. Okay.
Leonarda had Giuseppe eat the tea cake made from Virginia's blood,
Okay.
and once he was done, she forced him to take a bath with her so she could use the soap made from Virginia's body on him and know that it would be he would be protected both inside and out. Now, Giuseppe was 18 years old at this time.
Dude's gonna die at the war.
And this was the thing that really drove the wedge between him and his mother. Just
He's gonna die in the war. He's gonna die in the war.
I'm sorry, are you completely breezing over the fact that this woman forced her 18-year-olds?
I'm trying to not think about it, man. I'm traumatized.
Imagine how he felt.
I feel like you're speaking to me while howling a gun to my head.
Honestly, isn't that how my segments usually go?
This is so bad. It's so bad.
Isn't that how my segments
You know what
usually
sucks,
go?
though? I know you're saying tea cakes. I'm picturing moon cakes,
Oh no, don't
which
do
is
that to me.
ruining them for me. And I've
Don't.
never even fucking had one before.
Don't
And
do that
now
to me.
I'm mad at you.
Why are you mad at me?
Because I want to eat a moon cake.
Okay, so
But
we
now
can
I can't eat moon cakes. We can't eat moon cakes right now. It's not Lunar New Year.
Okay, when Lunar New Year comes around, we can eat
We're
moon
gonna buy
cakes.
that big specialty box of tea cakes, and then we're gonna have a whole little complicated plot thing going on where I'm gonna give you 2 baskets, and depending on which basket you use and which cakes you eat, I'll know if you love me or not.
Oh my god, I just remembered what you were talking about.
And if you know the C drama that I'm referring to, you're also watching it for the same reason I'm watching it, which is for the actor that shows up, episode 12?
I have no idea.
My baby.
Alrighty. So, Leonarda actually made a number of mistakes with this final sacrifice of hers.
Yeah, doing it.
Despite the ritual itself going as smoothly as it could, Virginia was not like Faustina or even Francesca.
Okay.
People
She was popular and people liked her.
Yeah. People
Oh.
noticed her disappearance, namely her sister-in-law. She didn't believe the letters that they received, even though they were written in her handwriting.
Gagged.
So the sister-in-law started to ask around, trying to figure out where exactly her sister-in-law had gone.
Drama.
Eventually, there were eyewitnesses who came forward stating that they had seen her enter Leonarda's shop, but that no one had ever seen her leave. This was reported to the police, who then began to make the connections between the 3 missing women.
FBI, open up.
They then took Leonarda in for questioning, since they had figured out that her shop was the last place all 3 women had last been seen alive,
Bruh.
who denied everything. And they fully believed her.
Bruh.
They believed her.
Bruh.
The police actually suspected Giuseppe, Leonardo's son of these murders, because the letters were sent from post offices he was seen at, dropping them off as an errand for his mother.
Oh my god.
They used this information to gain a search warrant, with which they found 3 women's belongings in the house and shop.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Giuseppe was brought in for questioning, he had no idea what was going on. He denied everything, but the police kept pressing him.
Poor Giuseppe. He's like, dude, I'm not involved. I am kind of. It's my mom, but I wish I wasn't.
Yeah. When Leonarda heard that her son had been arrested for her crimes, she raced to the police station and demanded to speak to the investigators again. Initially, when she tried to confess, the investigators shut her down, believing that she was just trying to protect her son. But then she started to give more and more details, even demonstrating how she dismembered the women on a cadaver they had in the morgue, which caused her son to be violently sick when he realized what exactly she had been feeding him and bathing him with. Now, Giuseppe then turns on his mother and told the investigators about her history with the occult and her belief in the curse that Leonardo's mother had cast. Leonardo did everything to protect her son, and nope, mom's crazy. This is what's happening. Now, Leonarda accepted her arrest with no hard feelings toward her son, but the town turned not only on her, but her entire family as well.
Yeah.
This caused Raffaele to lose his job. The kids left town before the murder trial actually happened, and Giuseppe left to serve in the war without saying goodbye. There are no records of what happened to any of them after they left Correggio.
Mm-hmm.
Raffaele, despite standing by his wife through everything, turned to alcohol to cope with all of the shit that was going on, and he ended up dying before the trial even began. Leonarda would be alone during her trial.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as we know, we have no idea what happened to her kids. We don't know if they died. We don't know if they outlived her. We don't know any of it. Leonardo's trial began in 1946 in Milan at the Reggio Emilia. Now, during the trial, the prosecution brought in all of the spell books to use against Leonarda. Now, Leonarda didn't deny anything. She even bragged about how she had donated the ladle that she used to make the human soap with, like the ladle.
Mm-hmm.
She donated that to the war effort when they needed metal to melt down for bullets. And she was bragging about that. She was like, look at me.
No, don't brag about that.
I'm so patriotic, guys. Anyway, but Leonarda fought back against an expert who was like, caustic acid is not strong enough to melt down the bodies the way that she's claiming.
So they didn't know what happened to the bodies.
They don't. Like, some of the experts are like, that's bullshit. And then Leonardo was like, excuse me? And she actually demanded that she get the opportunity to test it in court. Needless to say, after 3 days of trial, she was found guilty. But her mental state had been worsening during her time in jail as well as during her trial. Because of her actions during the trial, many, including those in charge of sentencing, believed that she had committed these murders because she was essentially insane. She was then sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in a criminal asylum, causing one of the prophecies to come true. The prison in one hand and the asylum in the other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we see many, many times, Leonarda actually thrived in the Pozzoli criminal asylum, getting help for what was, at the very least, PTSD from her childhood and potentially a delusional disorder triggered by trauma. It's honestly amazing what can happen. We can actually give people the help that they need.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have all day to talk about the mental health crises in this country or any country across the world, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Anyway, however, on October 15th, 1970, Leonarda actually died of what was essentially a brain bleed, likely caused by caustic soda vapor poisoning.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like poetic justice, I guess.
Yeah.
The thing that she used to melt down the bodies melted holes in her brain, essentially.
Yeah, this is why we controversial opinion. Don't do that.
However, her legacy does live on. Her autobiography, Confessions of an Embittered Soul, while not necessarily always true, because I mean, she did claim to sleep her way through an entire town, but it serves as the basis for a number of plays and operas. Additionally, it's also used by many, many chefs and bakers because of the sheer number of recipes she has included in it. Her pot, the one that she used to make the human soap in, is actually displayed in a criminological museum in Rome. And I kind of want to go see it.
No.
I kind of want to go look.
No.
But that is my case.
Thanks.
I have a question.
No.
A couple final questions.
Yes.
Do you think that the prophecies came true?
No.
So you don't think that the fortune teller is right whenever she said that she had seen prison in one hand and asylum in the other?
No, that I think so, but I think the curse that her mom put on her was bullshit.
I don't know. It's a little.
I think she paranoid herself into making it happen.
Oh, so you think it was like a. What's the word I used earlier?
You said self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, you think it was that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
That sounds like something that an angry mom said and probably didn't think about any further. And since this girl was just so traumatized, which, she had every right to be traumatized, she was traumatized, but I don't think that was something that I don't think anything was at play other than herself working against herself. Personally.
Probably.
Hated that. Thank you.
And that was the case of Leonarda Cianciulli, the Soap Maker of Correggio.
It's like you hate me or something.
I don't. I really don't.
At this point, I'm starting to think you do. You keep saying shit like this.
I mean, my next week episode is going to be worse because it's the India case. That's the case that while I was reading it, I got really fucked up doing like my research for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's kind of amazing what anxiety and trauma and everything can do to a human brain.
Mm-hmm.
And not like amazing in a, oh, wow. It's like, oh, wow kind of way.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that if Leonarda only had therapy and if that was a thing that was like accessible,
Mm-hmm.
if
It wouldn't be a problem.
I don't think that this would have happened. I think had she had the help that she needed, if she had the support system she needed.
I mean, if a lot of people had that, then we wouldn't have half the issues that we had in the world. But unfortunately, everything costs money. And conveniently, the people who really need the money to be able to afford the things don't have it for some odd fucking reason.
Every day I realize that Karl Marx was right. I'm getting the weirdest look. Something tells me you don't know the name.
Nope.
Communism.
Oh!
Specifically socialism.
Ah! Love a good socialism.
Because communism is great in theory, awful in practice, but socialism.
Bread and butter.
If we can get that rolling in a healthy way that's not communism. Oh, God.
So, I don't have the energy to recreate this entire conversation.
I will be eating my snackies while you talk about this. Oh, God.
So, I'm at work. I'm on lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there. And I had mentioned to a coworker about my project that I was working on, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh my gosh, just starts saying the craziest shit. And I'm just like, I really do struggle sometimes to, like, process that these people, like, exist. You know?
Okay.
So, for anyone who's listening to this podcast, especially if you've made it this far in this episode or this series, this probably is not information that pertains to you. And if anyone comes into our comments and is like, aha, stupid Americans, hi, non-stupid American here, I don't like this.
I'm so concerned. I have no idea what's going on and I'm so scared.
Dragons don't exist.
What?
I'm sorry if this is your first time being told this, but dragons don't exist.
Okay.
Ancient civilizations did not have helicopters or elevators in their drawings, and there's no such thing as dragons. The reason why ancient civilizations have drawings of dragon-like creatures is because they discovered fossils that were not complete. Because I don't know if the general public knows this, but as someone who is studying this, we don't stumble upon a full skeleton of a dinosaur. Do you know this?
Yes.
We don't go out and find every single bone of a dinosaur on our first go, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes like a lot of these guys to find even like hominins, like human, like proto-human creatures. We don't just like stumble upon like a whole skeleton of these guys. Like it takes like 300 of these, some crazy like that, to discover enough of these to get a full skeleton. So like I just want to put that out there. What probably happened is these ancient civilizations stumbled upon fossils. This is just my theory. I've not prepped this in advance. This is a conversation that I had with a coworker. This is just my brain. These in my mind, they probably stumbled upon these incomplete fossils and went, "That's a dragon." Because what else? Because why would you assume that these skeletons are going to look like anything different than what you're used to seeing, right? If you're used to seeing birds and you come across a creature that has this bones or whatever, you're like whatever it is, you're going to make it look like what you're used to, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a very good idea of what happened from the KT extinction. The murdering of all dinosaurs on the earth. I know it's very traumatic for everyone to think about. It was very hard to deal with at the time.
Mm.
We know, we have a good idea of what happened from that event to now. Also, it's called the KT extinction and not the Big Bang.
Okay.
Those are two different things.
Because okay.
The Big Bang was when all of the everything came together and then exploded. That's the Big Bang. That is not the KT extinction. I just want to make that clear first, because that was also another thing that I had to just sit there and be like, uh-huh. We have a good idea of what happened after that. We have a good idea of how we came from there to now. Like we got a good idea about that. We also don't know everything about dinosaurs. We don't have like a perfect record of dinosaurs and then they all got wiped out and now suddenly we don't know what happened. Like we know about as much as we did before. But also it's a lot easier to track like dinosaurs like existence because they don't have complex language and they don't have complex civilizations. So we can pretty much just assume they did this and they did this. And conveniently enough, I don't believe everything on the earth died back then. In fact, I'm 90% certain that everything didn't die because humans evolved from creatures that didn't die in the extinction. Does that not common knowledge?
I mean, it's not something that everybody like really thinks about.
So not
I mean, to be fair,
everything.
you have people who think that evolution isn't real.
Fair enough. Okay, so I need everyone to put on their big boy thinking caps for a second, right? So we have creatures right now that are like modern dinosaurs, right? Like alligators and Komodo dragons and shit like that. So how can they exist if everything died in the KT extinction? Just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for anyone who's curious, and you're not going to believe me when I say this, but humans actually, in a very weird turn of events, evolved from something that looked very similar to like a squirrel. And
I
I'm really sorry if this is the first time you're hearing this.
I beg your finest pardon.
I give you my finest pardon. We evolved from something that looked like a squirrel. Also,
It's like you hate me.
the platypus is not like a random creature. It's actually a very normal creature that, believe it or not, is an early version of mammals. That's just a creature. That's just how it looked. It's its own branch of that tree, but that's not part of this whole situation. What was the other point that came up that I literally was just like, I don't even know how to rationalize this with someone. The documentaries where people were finding the bones of giants and then suddenly went hush hush about it because now we're trying to say it's fake is because it was fake. I'm not going to bring up the exact conversation. I'm just bringing up the points to tell you guys the things that I couldn't say to this person because, oh my God.
Okay.
Friction and gravity are not the same thing.
I'm sorry. Is this something that people actually think?
I don't know how to say this next sentence.
Oh, God.
Your hair standing upright because it is attracted to the static in a balloon is not going to be non-existent because Earth has gravity. So
What?
Earth has gravity, right? But things can still move with against Earth's gravity if you're on Earth. I don't
So stressed.
if you jump, you can jump, right? Birds can fly, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not crushed by Earth's gravity. Planes exist, right? Psychos, please look at me.
I don't like this.
You know that we can leave Earth's orbit, right?
Yes.
Okay, you understand that Earth's gravity isn't so crushing that we can't leave Earth's orbit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not common knowledge, I think.
But it's like common sense, I fear.
But it's not common sense, apparently. So for anyone who doesn't know, if you are listening to this, I don't want to shame people. I just need people to understand that sometimes when people say that this is just how it is, it's because it is. And having the personality of someone who likes to debate people on science by bringing up what you think is facts that are not facts as facts isn't fun. You're not the kind of person who should be debating.
That's
A debate,
that's like a really nice way to tell somebody that they just need to shut up. Stop talking.
a debate inevitably involves coming to an understanding of either you have different opinions or debating something is coming to a conclusion about something. You're bringing forth information from different points of view until you come to a conclusion on something. That's a debate. If someone is telling you something that is a fact and you're bringing up pseudoscience to argue against it, you're not debating, you're arguing. And arguing will never have a conclusion.
Yeah. There might be a conclusion, but the conclusion is somebody's gonna be really fucking proud of themselves, and the other person's just gonna either A, never talk to you again, or B, beat the shit out of you.
So science has laws and science has facts. If you don't agree with those facts, that's fine. But you have to understand that the modern world is not built for you because the modern world is built off of, ideally, facts. But also, you can't function in society without being a product of science. Do people not know this?
Apparently not.
Earth is in space.
Correct.
It is going around the sun.
Correct.
As every other planet and object in our solar system is going around the sun.
Yes.
There is a certain point within Earth's or the sun's orbit where a planet can be close enough that it's not going to get pulled in any farther by the sun's gravity.
Correct.
Right? The moon is not actively crashing into the Earth because it's not that it's conveniently this distance away. It's because the moon has managed to gradually fall into the right distance away from Earth. Also, the moon is part of the Earth. I don't know if that's common knowledge. I'm not even 100% certain on that, so don't even quote me on that. But I'm 90% certain that the moon and the Earth are the same thing. So what happened was something hit Earth and the moon is actually a chunk of Earth that broke off.
That's a big chunk of Earth.
It was a big object that hit the Earth, right?
Yeah, I know this is like
Because we've absorbed it. The Earth absorbed it.
okay.
The reason why everything is ball shaped in the universe is because that's the easiest shape to make with gravity. It goes to a singularity. The bigger you get from a singularity, you're going to get a circle, crazy, or a sphere, whatever. Okay, so Earth is moving through space. We are moving through space, actively moving through space. Thousands of miles, like a second, probably more than that. We are zooming through space. And I don't think people can fathom how big space is. It's the reason why I didn't go into science and into quantum mechanics, which was my original major, because I can't physically handle how big the universe is when I actually like sit and process it. So the universe, by the way, is not infinite, it's indefinite. I really need people to understand that distinction. You understand the difference, right?
Yeah.
The universe is not infinite. It does not go on forever and never ends. It's indefinite, as in it's continuously expanding. But I need people to process that it's expanding into something, right?
Mhm.
So we are a balloon that is expanding into a room. We don't even know the bounds of that room. So there is something outside of our universe. It's going somewhere. And we've proven this. We have a fabric of time. You can split the fabric of time. Our universe exists on a plane of fabric of time. And you can wiggle it, you can fold it, you can tear through it. So there's that. But also, it's the reason why, like, and this, oh my god, this shit drives me fucking crazy. I need whatever you're doing. What are you doing?
I'm just doing things to like make sure my computer doesn't fall asleep.
Okay, look at me for 2 seconds. So, what drives me fucking crazy? Have you seen those TikToks that are like, oh, things that should scare you? There's a black hole pointed directly at Earth. What the fuck do you think that means? Pointed?
I
What do you
feel
mean
like those are
pointed?
just I feel like those are just
What do you mean
scare like
pointed?
they're scare
Where's
bait.
the top?
It's
Me too.
like all it is bait.
I know,
It's
but here's the
engagement bait. It's fear bait,
it
really.
is. Okay, so for anyone who is genuinely scared about black holes, right? Black holes, they don't suck things in. Things fall into their orbit, right? They're not like some big vacuum in space. The way that a black hole works is it exists. So typically it comes from a star that's collapsed. And what it is, and this is my personal theory of what I think it is. We don't actually know what a black hole is. Like, we know what it is, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
A star, when it is big enough, it'll explode and then it'll collapse in back on itself. If it's small enough, it'll turn into a new star, a star nursery. But if it's big enough and dense enough, it'll actually collapse in, and all of that matter, that mass, will get pushed in so close together that it'll actually, in my personal opinion, punch a hole in the fabric of time and space. What that does is basically makes an inverted star where now it's absorbing all of the energy that it's getting. So when you put something in a black hole, we don't actually know where it goes. We don't know what it does. We have an idea of where like 90% of that material goes, and I'll explain that in a second. In my personal theory of what I think is going on, I think that whatever matter is getting absorbed into from our universe is going somewhere else. That is my personal theory. That's what I think it is. But basically imagine it's literally a hole that's been punched into the universe. It's super super dense because it's got a lot of weight. So if you ever like put a bowling ball on a if you put a bowling ball on a trampoline, you know how it like dips in the middle?
Yeah.
Anything that you put on that trampoline, it's going to go in towards the middle, right? That's kind of what's happening with a black hole. It's all getting sucked into that middle. That's gravity. But if you're outside of that trampoline, you're not getting sucked into that bowling ball, right? Because you're not in the bounds of the trampoline. And technically speaking, if I were to get on the trampoline, the bowling ball would probably roll in towards me, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm heavier than the bowling ball on the trampoline. The trampoline is the fabric of space and time. And when something super heavy gets put on it, it dips, and anything nearby dips with it, right?
Mhm.
So, anyway, a black hole does not have a it has a I guess it kind of has a top and bottom. there really is no up and down in space. So when someone says a black hole is pointed directly at Earth, I honestly have no fucking idea what they're talking about. A black hole being pointed at Earth doesn't mean it's going to suddenly vacuum us up into it. We have to be super close to a black hole for it to do any sort of damage to Earth. We'd see it coming a million fucking miles away, trillions of miles away, before it even got to us. And there is no way that you could instantly spawn a black hole on Earth. Technically, you could, but like no one's going to do that unless they already have. And then it's fine. But one isn't just going to appear in our universe randomly. They're like near us randomly. That's not a thing. They're going to come from something super dense in our universe collapsing. Our star isn't even close to being big enough to create a black hole, by the way. So we're good there. But
Irrational fear removed.
yeah, so that's not something that I've ever been concerned about. It's not something anyone should be concerned about. Black holes are not scary for us. When people say, "Oh, there's a super massive black hole," and Muse starts playing in the background, in the center of our universe,
Everybody
whatever,
starts gearing up to play baseball.
right? When that's the actual supermassive black hole. It's the Twilight Phantom.
Oh god, I really want to rewatch those movies.
I don't.
No, drinking game.
Oh, facts. Anyway, so if someone's like, "Oh my god, there's a supermassive black hole in the middle of our universe," sure, maybe. I mean, there's one in the middle of the galaxy, but it just means it's a super dense thing. But like, you could be just outside of the threshold of a black hole, and it won't absorb you in. Black holes only get bigger the more mass they absorb. The more mass they put in to themselves, the bigger they get because they've got more energy in that middle area, so it gives them a bigger gravitational pull because there's more. The bowling ball is getting a little heavier. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So no black hole is gonna randomly whatever. Now the other part of that TikTok that I saw was like it's shooting energy right at us or it's looking right at us, whatever. I don't know what the fuck that means. But if you ever look at a photo of a black hole, what you're actually missing is there's emissions coming off that black hole. So imagine a Q-tip, right? It kind of looks like a Q-tip. When energy goes into a black hole, you have to hit it at the right angle. If you hit it at the wrong angle, you'll actually be catapulted off of it, which is super fun. So say you're going in from the front, you'll actually be catapulted upwards or downwards depending on what angle you hit it at.
Okay.
And you'll see streamline energy emissions going one way or the other. So even then, if we were to hit a black hole, we wouldn't even probably go in it. We'd probably get fucking yeeted off the top or the bottom or whatever. So, but that's not gonna kill us. I mean, it would kill us if we were there, but like it's not gonna kill us here. Like our solar system is relatively safe, right?
I think so.
We're fine. That's not a thing that we have to worry about. So that's that. But, when people want to leave Earth, you can't just like jump and like fly off of Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is you also can't just like a plane could never make it off of Earth's gravity. Not because it's like not built right. It will also. But the way that it works is when we actually have to shoot things out of our atmosphere, we have to not only get this big heavy object into the atmosphere or out of the atmosphere, but we have to counteract Earth's gravity. That's why we have multiple fall off points of when you see like a not the Challenger, but when you see a shuttle go off and it'll like drop this and drop this and drop this.
Yeah.
What it's doing is basically 90% of that is just the fuel to get up there, the energy to get up there. What they're dropping is actually going to help propel them further and further and further. You have to actively counteract Earth's gravity by pushing and pushing and pushing until eventually you get far enough out of the Earth's atmosphere that once you hit the outside of Earth's atmosphere, you're pretty much good, depending on how big you are, to stay out there. That's why we can have satellites, because it's close enough that they're slowly, very slightly getting closer to Earth every single year. That's why satellites fall back into Earth's atmosphere. Slowly getting back into Earth's atmosphere, but not enough to where it's like immediately pulling us back in. But you actively have to get enough fuel and energy to get out of Earth. You've never seen those simulations where you have to like hit at the right angle to like get going. I don't know, maybe that was just a game I played.
I have a question.
What's up?
What was the conversation about that led to this?
She just wouldn't stop saying shit.
I just want you to stop saying odd shit.
No, literally. So, but also static electricity and friction are not gravity. So if you rub a balloon on whatever and then hold it up to your hair and your hair stands up, that's standing up because of static electricity, not because of the fact that Earth has no gravity. Because if Earth had no gravity, we wouldn't exist. We evolved on this planet. Our bodies are used to Earth's gravity. We were used to living on this planet because we are so tiny. I really need people to grasp this because I saw a theory that this is the reason why flat earthers exist, because they don't grasp how big the fucking planet is. But I need you guys to understand that we are so small compared
Small.
compared to Earth. We are microscopic on Earth. One human is the equivalent of those like the tardigrades. Like they're there, but I can't see them. Like we are legitimately the smallest thing on the face of the planet to Earth. And there's things smaller than us, and there's things smaller than that. So when it comes to Earth's gravity, Earth isn't actively nomming us back in onto the planet. We can stand up, we can move around, whatever. Like that's a thing that we can do. And we can move things. I can pick up my phone because my phone isn't being held to my desk by Earth's immovable gravity. I can pick it up for a reason, right? So static electricity, it works on Earth because it's on Earth. It's our planet is not gonna it's not a magnet. I mean, it is, but it's not. We're not all like belly crawling and army crawling around the planet. We've evolved to be able to upright stand on Earth's gravity. Big ass bugs can't live on Earth because the gravity would fuck them up, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we were to go to a planet that was bigger than ours, we would actively be crushed by its gravity. You've seen those TikToks that are like driving
Oh, I
on.
love those.
That's accurate. That's what would happen to us, right?
Yeah.
Anything worse than Earth's gravity would kill us. It would crush us because we've adapted to Earth's gravity. I cannot stress this enough. Everything that we have on Earth right now is an adaptation to our environment from the microscopic levels up. We've adapted to live on Earth. We are terrestrian creatures, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's I don't know how to end this. It's a fact. And science has these things called laws. Now, laws are basically what we believe to be is a law. Every time you test it, it's going to be true, right? Gravity is a law, the law of gravity, right? It's a thing. It just is a thing. Every time we've tested it, every time it's there, we know 100% we can rely on gravity, right? Now, if we were to ever discover a situation to where that's not the case, then it would go back into review. But when someone says something is a fact in science, it's a fact. That's just how it is. We've researched it enough, we know enough. I personally believe that 90% of science we have not discovered yet. We are still in the 0.001% of discovering how the universe works. We have been doing science for a very short amount of time. Humans have existed for a fraction of a second in the time of Earth and the universe. Smaller than that. The universe has existed so much longer than humans have. And we've been doing science for so little time compared to how long the universe has been here. And we've discovered so much. It just drives me crazy that there are people who don't want to listen to when people actively try to argue that what we have discovered in science is incorrect because they want to believe this thing or the other thing because of whatever reason. It actively lessens the value of the work that hundreds and thousands, millions of scientists over thousands of generations have done. Lifetimes of science completely discarded for the sake of wanting to be ignorant. Science is so readily available to people. And the more people that we have who are willing to believe and acknowledge it, the more we can progress as a species, the more we can progress as a conscious existence on this planet. And it drives me absolutely crazy that that is not considered more. I hate that scientists are not held to a higher social elevation. You know, we prioritize entertainers, we prioritize politicians. But at the end of the day, neither of those two things are going to save you. Scientists are the ones that are working tirelessly to fix things and learn things and discover things and save us. We wouldn't have modern medicine without scientists. And, you know, the hundreds and thousands of people who, you know, consensually or non-consensually, unfortunately, have given to that science, truly. And, you know, modern medicine, your prescription that you got, you know, that wouldn't be possible without science. You know, our computers, our microphones, that's science. That's experimenting, that's testing, that's working. Politicians didn't make computers, you know, didn't make modern medicine. The president didn't make modern medicine. The president probably didn't even make his own breakfast this morning. I'm actually certain he didn't. But you know who probably made the food safe regulations for the food that he eats? Scientists working with farmers, working with whoever. And when people want to sit here and just argue pseudoscience, what you're doing is not only disrespecting the person you're talking to by just bringing up, because here's the thing, there's a term for this, I don't know what it is, but when you're debating someone, if you just keep restating incorrect facts, you're not progressing in the conversation. You're just making it impossible to talk to you. And I hate those people. I hate people who sit here and have conversations for the sake of wasting time and wanting to be right. If I keep telling you this is something, we need to keep progressing this conversation, you keep saying, but this, and you just say the same thing over and again. But dragons are real. But dragons are real. But I believe dragons are real. You can believe dragons are real. I am telling you they are not. If you want to believe they are real, whatever. But this is the reasons why not. Well, they're real. Well, they're real. Well, this and this. Well, that was fake. Well, you know, you saying it's fake just makes me want to believe it more because they're just covering it up. Well, then what's your evidence for that? You know what I mean? I hate those conversations because people like that, they don't want to they don't want to learn, they want to be right. And I hate having conversations with people who want to be right. I hate it. If you are ever the kind of person who wants to have a conversation or an argument or a debate for the sake of being right, never be a scientist because you are actively going to set us back as a species. And that I think is the most polite way I can say that.
Damn.
Do you want to what?
Just how? Just like, you're gonna be the reason why we get set back.
If you are someone, which I have yet to encounter this because my current team is entirely woman led, so take that as you will. But if you are the kind of person who wants to join science for the sake of being the person who did this or the person who discovered this and you want to make it all about yourself, I am begging you, please just go into engineering or something. Politics. Go into politics. Or, I don't know, cryptocurrency. Because you're going to find your people there. If you want to go into a debate to learn more, be made aware of things that you weren't aware of, and come out of the conversation willingly wrong, but better as a person for it, be a scientist. If you are willing to go into a conversation and admit that you entered the conversation with incorrect information, or that you entered it with an incorrect understanding of how things worked, or that you were just straight up wrong, if you're willing to accept those things when you go into an argument or a debate or a conversation, be a scientist. Absolutely. If you can take someone saying that's incorrect, you're incorrect, be a scientist. Now, if you are on the other end of this goddamn conversation and you tell someone that's wrong, you're wrong, and you don't explain why or how in a progressive way, be a politician. We don't need you.
Fair enough.
Shit drives me fucking bonkers. Anyway, I understand that it's fun to think that dragons existed. Trust me, I get it. I understand it's fun to think that mermaids exist. Trust me, I get it. Okay?
We have been there on
we get
both
it.
counts.
But let's be real here. Lovingly, if mermaids existed, we would have killed them off by now. If dragons existed, they would have gone extinct by now. We cannot sit here and hope and wish that things that are fantasy exist when we can't even take care of the things that exist now. We can't even keep rhinos alive. How the fuck do you think we're going to keep dragons alive? Also, if dragons were real, we would see large dips in populations of their prey. But we don't. We don't see that. We can decently track what's killing what. That's the one thing we're very good at, is tracking what's killing what. We would see large parts of the population disappearing with no explanation. Food, resources for these animals, creatures, whatever. But you know what does go missing a lot? People. That I do want to talk about.
Oh, God. We're going to talk about that tonight?
There's no people living in the planet, by the way. There's no people living in the earth. I don't think people understand how big the earth is and how little we are. There's no people living under the earth's crust. You can barely live at the bottom of the earth's crust. It's the crust for a reason. The crust on a piece of bread is way thicker than the crust of the earth. Just putting that out there. We are nothing to Earth. I don't even think Earth would know. I mean, she would, but in theory, she wouldn't. Sometimes I can't tell when people are saying that they believe that something is real for the gag of it or they actually mean it. So I am begging you, please, when you are having a scientific debate with someone, use facts. If you are going to go into a scientific debate and use your heart, be a politician. Please. We don't need you. That's my rant. I hope you enjoyed that.
There was a lot.
I just started talking about monkeys. I was just talking about chimps. I was literally just talking about how me and my lab partner were arguing over whether this hand came from a chimp or a bonobo. And I don't know how it turned into this, but it did. And I literally sat there and I was having to bite my tongue so much that I literally scarfed down my food just to have something in my mouth so I couldn't talk. So I didn't have to say shit. I just kept going, And I really hope she didn't think I was agreeing with her, because I didn't agree with a single word that came out of her mouth. The more she kept talking, I was like, I know who you voted for.
Oh, no.
Anyway.
Jeez.
That's my story. Now you know what it's like to live with me, because I go on rants like that all the time. And poor Psychos just has to take it. Takes it like a champ, though.
Honestly, this, I think, is just your revenge for me putting you through some of the worst shit humanity has done.
Facts.
Well, I think that's everything.
I'm so tired.
I know, I am
so
too.
tired.
It's almost 2 a.m.
I'm so tired of people.
No,
Please, God. Use your brains.
Please. Use your
Baby,
brains. If people use their brains, we wouldn't have half the shit we do today. Excuse me, half the problems.
If more people took if we didn't have governments like this, we would be so advanced as a species. And it kills me that we spend so much time fighting each other and arguing with each other that we could have spent progressing so much farther.
But I think we should probably wrap up for the night, given how late it is.
Sorry, got distracted.
Yeah. Stay safe. Keep learning. Triple check your sources now, please, for the love of God. With
Yep,
how
including
wide-
ours. And if we're
especially
wrong,
ours.
if we're wrong,
please correct us.
please correct us. That is the whole point of this show, is to have a discussion, to be open to learning new information. If I'm wrong, please correct me. The whole point is to learn. This is a learning podcast. I learned I don't like those Star Wars Oreos. I'm very disgruntled about it too.
Oh, I'm sorry, baby.
It's okay. I'll live.
Anyway, so stay safe. Keep learning. Have a good night, morning, afternoon, whenever you're listening.
Drink water. Wasser.
Alrighty.
Good night.
Good night.